Welcome back to the channel, guys, and today we are going to install some axle seals. We already have axle seals on this truck, but it has been leaking gear oil and it's been seeping out the back of the knuckle. Usually when that happens, that means your axle seal is bad or you overfilled the differential. Usually with Patrick housings, from my experience, they take around 8 quarts of oil. We didn't overfill it, so we know we have a bad axle seal. In order to change the axle seal, we got to take off the whole corner. Take off the hub, which includes the planetaries and the bowl gear. Put the 2 spindle nuts back on the spindle, and then you tap it up and down, left or right in order to wiggle the spindle loose off the knuckle. We got this slide hammer puller. Do the adjustments you need. Once you get a good grip, you slide hammer away. And there you have it. That is how you take out an axle seal. In this case, the O-ring was just bad, so I just replaced the O-ring. Usually I try to bevel the edges just a hair so that way it slides in easily when I gotta hammer it back in. And there you have it. That is how you install an axle seal. Super easy. Alright, nothing to it. Put everything back together. Put your inner axle back in. Put your spindle on. Make sure that tab is always pointing upward. By the way, that is an Overson inner axle, and that is also an Overson spindle. Probably the strongest thing you can get as far as inner axles and spindles from monster trucks. Alright, get a couple bolts on your spindle, make sure it's flush with the knuckle. Then you check your slack on the outer axle, make sure there's some slack. Make sure it's centered. If it's not centered, then that means your shimming's wrong on your knuckle. To reshim your knuckle, that is a project in itself, but we'll save that video for later. Here's a little sneak peek. Alright, back on to putting your spindle bolts on. Make sure you Loctite all these. Alright, after your spindle bolts are all tight, you can put your hub on. I'm by myself, so I gotta use the hydraulic jack. Put your bowl gear on, just get it somewhat lined up. Use your palms, jiggle up and down, it should pop right in. Super easy. Alright, get your spindle nuts on. First you put your inner one. Tighten it as hard as you could, even if you gotta use a piece of pipe to get more leverage. Don't be afraid, tighten it down. Get your spindle nut washer is what I call it. It's got tabs, which I'll explain later on what those are for. Put your outer one on, tighten it down, hard as you could. Alright, now we're going to bend those tabs. One forward and one back. That'll help prevent the spindle nuts from coming loose. Alright, let's clean out the face of this hub so that we can put some fresh silicone on it. Oh, and don't forget, spin your hub around, make sure that plug hole is pointing upward. Otherwise you can't put gear oil in it after you put your planetaries back on. Trust me, every now and then I forget to. Put your silicone on. Get your planetary faceplate on. Alright, with the stud, sometimes you gotta smack it with a mallet, but it's not gonna hurt anything. Alright, get it tightened down. Don't tighten it too hard, they're very fragile. Now this is my preference, but I like to torque them down to 85 psi if you run the stock Clark hub with a 10 bolt pattern. That way I know they are all evenly tightened.